Hey friends, welcome back to the Bald Booktuber. My name is Scott. It is mid-May, so it's time for a check-in. So let's see what I've been reading, what I'm in the process of reading, and what I'm gonna be reading. So I started the month with George R.R. Martin's exceptional A Feast for Crows. This is, of course, book 4 of A Song of Ice and Fire. This is, I believe, my third or fourth read through of it, and I have loved it more each and every time. I will be leading the discussions this month for our Song of Ice and Fire read along. On the final Saturday of this month, I'll be leading the wonderful team of Joanna Sousa, Alex from Tall Guy Reads, and myself. We will be discussing the book in depth. Full spoilers, of course, as we have done the entire time, so we hope you can drop by and participate in the discussion. The following Saturday, the first one in June, I will be leading a secondary discussion, and I have some guests picked out. Not everyone has fully said yes so far, but for certain, I know I will have Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, I will have Ben from Books of Genghis Khan, and we'll have Kyle from Read by Kyle. So some hardcore Song of Ice and Fire truthers, Mike and Kyle, and then a first-time reader, Ben from Genghis Khan. So I'm excited to have that discussion. I have a couple other invites out there that I'm waiting to hear details back on, but I will save most of the commentary for those discussions. Suffice it to say, I absolutely love this book. I do think it pales in comparison to Storm of Swords, but I think every single fantasy book suffers that same fate. I think that's it's a tough act to follow, the single greatest fantasy book ever written. But definitely A Feast for Crows is one of my favorites. I think it gets a very bad rap, very unfairly, and I think it's a wonderful book. All right, I will put up graphics for the others because I don't have copies to show, but I applied for and received a couple of advanced reader copies, audio only. The first of which was Extra Easy Keto by Stephanie Lanska, and she also read the narration of the book. I am back on a ketogenic diet. If you've seen me over the course last year, I've blown up a little bit, and that can't happen. So it is time to take off some LBs, and anytime I want or need to do that, keto seems to be the way to go. So I gave this book 3 Stanley nods. I'll talk, I guess, more about it in my wrap-up. I do have a review out there on both Goodreads and on NetGalley, but ultimately, I felt like it was a good introduction for someone who maybe is trying the diet for the first time or doesn't know or understand the science behind it. Probably not as useful for someone who's been on the diet before and or has a pretty solid grounding in what's going on with kind of the distribution of protein, fat, and carbs at the low end. So nothing wrong with the book. She certainly was enthusiastic in the telling of it, but I didn't get a ton out of it. All right, I additionally requested and received an advanced reader copy for The Art of Clear Thinking by Hazard Lee. He is a stealth fighter pilot, and he talked about his decision-making processes and different ways that he went about things as a fighter pilot. This was very, very good. Gave it 4 Stanley nods. I am invested and interested in anything revolving around decision making. Probably the reason that I have been a lifelong addict and super fan of the game of chess is that it's all about decision making. It's all about the consequences that may not be felt or seen until several moves down the road of one specific decision at one specific time, and about how so to give you an example, he never mentions chess in the book. He's not a chess player. He's a fighter pilot. So I sort of had to filter some of this through because I don't know anything about when your plane is about to hit bingo because it's going to run out of fuel and all that kind of stuff. But The way I would kind of liken it to on the chessboard is he talked about something called heuristics. And this is a decision-making model where your brain sort of shortcuts and, for lack of a better word, filters through and easily selects best practices for decision making so that you don't have to sort through the myriad different options. And in a game of chess, for those not familiar, generally you can narrow a single position down to usually 3 to 4 candidate moves that make sense and seem logical and advance your plan. You can automatically filter out many other moves that either lose material or put you in a worse position or make your king unsafe or whatever the case may be. So he applies this to the sort of real world and how you can kind of shortcut by using best practices in the past. He talked a lot about sort of post-mortem analysis, which is also done in chess. He didn't call it that, but basically debriefs is what he called it when a mission had been flown and basically the pilot has to be in front of a board and discuss every decision during the process, which can feel a little brutal to those outside of the process, but ultimately makes them a better pilot and makes sure that any learnings along the way can be distributed to others. So I really like this book. It was really, really very good. I would not mind owning a physical copy of it to refer to as I, right now have the audio. What am I in the process of reading? A couple books. So I am about halfway into Sailing to Sarantium, which I was supposed to have read last month and did not get to. I'm quite enjoying it. This is my first Guy Gabriel Kay book. I think I did try Tigana a long time ago, but I didn't get very far into it. But I'm quite enjoying it. This is book 1 of a duology, the second part being Lord of Emperors. I will be reading both. This duology comes highly recommended by many people I trust, including Christopher Rocchio. That's one of his favorite series. Jake from Jake Bishop, it's one of his favorites. My friend Madison read it for the first time last month. Zen, who was on the server, read it, and they were all part of that read-along that I was supposed to be part of and did not get to, but quite enjoying it. It is sort of Byzantine type of style. It feels like historical fiction. It's not. It's kind of its own classification of historical fantasy, which is typically what Kay writes, to my understanding. I'm really connecting with the character of Crispin. I think he's quite a well fleshed out and unique character. There are, I've just hit a part where there's like a bison buffalo god within the last few pages that I read. So it's very interesting. And I'm hopeful to get that and Lord of Emperors still wrapped up yet this month. I'm also reading An Exorcist Tells His Story. I'm doing this also by audio. The exorcist in question is Gabriel Amorth, who was the character played by Russell Crowe in the movie that my wife and I just saw last weekend, The Pope's Exorcist. I almost got that wrong. The Pope's Exorcist, which I'm not really into that type of movie typically, but I wanted to see Russell Crowe, and he was fantastic in the movie. And my understanding is that he really got invested in this guy who was an exorcist in Rome. He was the Pope's personal exorcist, and he performed, I guess his estimate was in the tens of thousands of exorcisms in his life, which is crazy. Throughout the movie, he talked about all the books he had written and kept saying the books are good. So I saw that this was free on Audible within my membership, and I'm like, I'll check it out. So I'm enjoying it. It's I'm not a theologian, and there's some crazy stuff in there, but I am enjoying it. I have maybe 45 minutes left to go on the audio, so I should get that wrapped up today or tomorrow without too many problems. But I will post something of a review, but he had some opinions, that is for certain. And when I do my wrap up, I'll talk about the narrator. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but he has been very, very good. So more details to come when I do my wrap up. I'll mention the narrator by name and talk through it, but I would definitely check out more of his stuff. He's good. Additionally, and I don't know if it's fair to say I'm in the middle of this one, but I have read the prologue of Jack Carr's Only the Dead. I'll have some pictures up there, but for the second year in a row, and actually for the release of every book within the series, Jack starts out his book signing tour at the Poison Pen in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is about a 30-minute drive for me. So I had a chance to go to the event, listen to him speak, and get a signed copy of the book. So I don't know how easy to see that is. He doesn't have maybe the prettiest signature I've ever seen, but that's okay. Wonderful guy. He is a former Navy SEAL. If you haven't heard me talk about him before, I love his writing. This series has been fantastic. If you enjoy military thrillers, I would highly recommend it. The primary character is James Reese. That's who we follow throughout the series, and Reese, the character, is also a former Navy SEAL. He is portrayed on screen in the Amazon program, The Terminal List, by Chris Pratt, and Chris Pratt is outstanding as James Reese. So, one thing to note, this is book 5, In the Blood, that I got last year. Check out the difference. I don't know if you can see that. It's about 100 more pages for this one, so it is quite the jump in quantity. Hopefully it will also be a jump in quality, because I really love that last book, and I've loved all the books so far. So hopefully he continues to evolve and grow as a writer. The speaking event itself should be at some point posted online for all to enjoy, even those that weren't there in person like I was. So if and when that becomes available, I will definitely post it, because he has a lot of really interesting things to say, just about his time in the military, about leadership, about writing, about you know, what have you, you know it. And I'll make sure everybody gets that in their hands, because it is definitely worth watching him speak. He also does a podcast, which I haven't sampled just yet, but I have heard it is quite good. What will I be reading? I will be finishing up, of course, Sailing to Sarantium. I will be reading Lord of Emperors. I also still need to get to both Iron Gold and Dark Age from Pierce Brown. I'll probably get those done over the course of the next month and a half, so that I will be ready for Lightbringer in July when it releases. Too much to do. I also need to get to book 5 of Book of the New Sun, Earth of the New Sun, so that I can have that final discussion with Mr. Christopher Rocchio of Sun Eater fame. Speaking of which, he and I did have our discussion last weekend about Citadel of the Autarch. That was a fantastic discussion. I know not many people were able to be there live, but we did have some folks that have watched it after the fact, so I appreciate those that did. If you either have read the books or do plan to, I would highly recommend, not because it's me, but I would highly recommend to tune in to hear what Mr. Rocchio has to say about these books. They are the primary driving influence of his Sun Eater series, and definitely as I'm reading through it, I can see where he got some of his concepts and ideas, and you know, what he's kind of paying homage to with Gene Wolfe, his favorite author. So that is awesome to see. Additionally, this weekend I will be going on Joanna's channel, my pal over on the Song of Ice and Fire read-along, along with other pals of the Song of Ice and Fire read-along, Joanna Sousa and Alex of Tall Guy Reads. We will be her guests for her ongoing series that is fantastic, and she calls it Why Read. We'll be number 14, which is crazy to imagine since she just started this thing last year. But I would highly recommend going back and watching some of those live shows that she's had. She's had guests anywhere from AP Canavan and Philip Chase to Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, Jake Bishop. She has had Red Fury Books with Josh. She has had, her first guest was Alan from the Library of Alexandria. So she's had numerous folks that you are quite familiar with on the BookTube sphere, and talking through why each of them chooses to read when there are, other options to do with one's free time. What is impactful and important about reading. So I really love that series that she's doing. Kind of slowly making my way back through them as a lead up to go on her channel. So I'm quite enjoying those. But I think I have babbled enough for this time around. I hope you're all having a great month. I hope you're all reading some fantastic books. And until next time, publication order always, my friends.